Side is built up minus bump stop. I can't be bothered to squish them with a special tool, but I got them in manually with the high-lows set mega low, and I just on compression be able to pop that in later. The bump stop, that is. It's like a lower bump stop, which is in this side. So now I've got to take all this apart and put it back together again with the donut in. I thought I was being smart leaving it out, but I can't remember why now. I'm sure there was a good reason. So let's switch to some music and time-lapse. Take it all apart, put it all back together again for a sort of dress rehearsal, let's call it that. Music time. Is in position, ready to go, ready to be used and abused. Suspension donuts, both sides are in, arms are on, all the bushes as they basically should be, all nipped up. The engine, once again, is going to go in, hopefully by tonight, Tuesday, the 26th of May, might be the 27th, I don't know what day it is. This will run, and this will move under its own power for the first time in many moons. Accurate. So, get the engine in. Hopefully it doesn't damage my nice new brake line for the clutch, and doesn't foul here and doesn't foul there and blah 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 blah. And maybe it'll even move tonight. Or at least roll on its wheels. That's what I want tonight. Drive it in the morning. So, let's make it happen. Alright, so she's back in. When you get to this point, you kind of think, hang on, why did I take the engine out again? Did loads of stuff though. It's all good, it's all good. So suspension is all built up, minus obviously the actual hubs. They will just pop in a second. We have our clutch line coming in here. I'm probably going to fit a clamp maybe on here, just to hold that there and stop it moving around and rubbing. And maybe put a little sleeve on it, or maybe a little clamp just down there. You can't really see it, but a little clamp, because otherwise she's going to rub through something there. But that's bled up and we have a clutch. Now, because of my positioning, I did think it might be a little bit heavy because of the leverage position. So this leverage position here is quite high up on the pedal, and as such it's a very short pedal and it's a very heavy pedal. We presume it works, but I need to get the engine running to obviously see, so that's the next job. I mean, it is pretty heavy, I've got to admit. So, what we might have to do is simply bring down to maybe down here the bar, and that means the leverage point does move. In my head it does anyway, and I think that's right. So, I'm going to have to cut this arm off, which is very well welded on, and put it down here. That means the pedal might go lower, but it'll be a much lighter pedal. We can still go down by about 20 mil, so we're going to do that, I think. So let's get the engine all plumbed back in, get the hubs back on, shafts in, and then we can see if it turns the wheels. Alright, so the engine is back in. All the suspension is built up. Hubs are on, shafts are in, fan-dabby-dozy. We do have a little clearance issue, which I'll need to address once removed, where this is contacting the gearbox. We'll need to shorten this very slightly. We'll need about 5mm. I'll put an old bush in there for now because it was rattling. But once we'd connected all of these things, I was about to tell you about how much I've tied it up, and then there's like a piece of wiring just dangling around. So that's just a little bit more tiring to do there until we get to the conclusion of this thing. Clutch is in. That was a bit of a pain to bleed, but we got it all done. We have gears, we have a clutch. We'll have to move the clutch linkage position. I think I've mentioned that in a previous. It's a bit short, the pedal, and thus it's heavy. As far as the engine's concerned, we put everything back in. We hadn't really changed anything, but it wouldn't run. It started, and then fuel pressure rail issues. We had fuel here, I couldn't quite work it out, and then it wouldn't crank at all. So the last 24 hours I've literally been, well, I hardly slept last night. Came in when it was way past dark, and this is the middle of summer. Drunk actually very little tea because I've just been head down getting on with it. So I just went through some gremlins. There was a few issues going on. We've done loads of different things. We've tidied up some wiring. This is like a jumper start post that we're going to mount here or somewhere here at some point. So we fitted that on. We've had some dodgy wiring problems. This is still to sort out, but we're just going to cable tie that up in a minute. Positioning things in the right place, they're not rattling around, checking all connections. We sorted out this, which kept faulting, and because you need basically an aerial for the keypads stuff, so you can't just put a key in a piece of plastic, it needs this piece of metal. So I had two pieces of pipe which we've welded together in a nice position, and then a grub screw behind. We'll do a grub screw underneath, and we'll probably weld that and grind it clean and put the little plastic shim back in there, make it look nice and OEM. And there's just a little bit of trimming on the original trim, and that'll cover up nicely, so that's good. And there's our little chip on there which we'll sort out later on. We had all sorts of issues with it not reading the BCM, which is on the MS CAN side, the low sort of side, and worked out that the pins here were loose. Sorted that out. Clutch wiring issues. It just turns out that you just got to get the synchronization right with which one you're pressing, and because I haven't got them all in yet. Then we've sorted some of that wiring out. Again, there were some dodgy connections. Then it was cranking. Great. And then, no fuel, just no fuel whatsoever. And finally we traced it to the fuel tank, where we found out that the pump itself had popped itself out of its housing. So the little O-ring, so it was just firing fuel back in the tank all the time, not giving it any fuel. It doesn't need really pressure, but it needs fuel, obviously. At the same time, we have redone the wiring for this. The wiring on the Ford ECU doesn't like ground, and the old Mini used a ground point. So we put it back in, put a little plug back on, put the wiring back on the top there, so it's just one plug on the top. And we've just vented it down there. We've got some 4mm pipe, I haven't got any hose coming to replace that because it was getting so fumy in the boot here, I was getting worried it was going to go bang one day. So, 24 hours, and we're almost back where we started, but a lot tired, yeah? And I can't really do this one-handed because I have to press that button down. So let's just pop you down for a second, if I can. Pop you there. A bit of a, rubbing your belly, tapping your head. Ha! And that won't start. Now there was me just saying all the things we've done, and this is the first time she's not started. She doesn't want to know, does she? Let's try again. Nope. Amazing. There we go. As I say, you've got to get these pedals synchronisation right. Right, let's get the wheels on and see if they turn. Wheels on time. Okay, wheels are on, brake lines are out the way, power lines are out the way. We've got a lot of negative camber on this side, which I don't really like. I can bring in these arms here, but they're identical length that side to this side. And this side is about spot on. Pretty good at droop it straight up. I'm going to put it on the floor and see what it looks like. In my mind it will only get worse as it goes up, but they are obviously twin knuckles, so we'll see. If the top arm was adjustable, I'd just bring the top arm out a bit, but we can't do that. So I've put a little post on the old Just Minis, Classic Minis Facebook page. They've been incredibly useful, helpful, kind, so hopefully they might come up with something. I might just tuck it in a little bit now. No, I won't. I'm going to put it on the floor, see what it looks like, and drive it. Because I can only drive it for 30 seconds because there's no cooling system. So let's just get it on the floor to see what it looks like, shall we? Yeah, let's do that. She's on its own wheels. The first time, well, since I've got it. So I don't know how long this shell has ever been on it, but Kev, it's been 7 years, 6 years, something like that. It's been too long. So, next thing, tyre pressures are all a bit low. So we're going to get the tyre pressure machine naturally and pump the tyres up, and then let's see if she moves. Very exciting. It moved, people. It moved. So we've had our first little drive around for about 30 seconds with Mrs. Piggy in. Drove okay. The wheel alignment needs to be worked on. I have brought the camber side in here. She was really poking in at the top. Negative camber. We've adjusted a few things, got a bit better. It's probably as far as I will adjust it until the final build because, you know, everything's just nipped up and there's lots of other bodywork, etc. to go on. But it should be good enough to put arches on. But we are lacking distinct part of the suspension, so let's get them out. So if you've seen, you follow me on Instagram and Facebook, you would have seen these some weeks, months, maybe years ago if you're watching this video when I'm old. But Richard from Spax in Bicester, who actually is quite close to me, not personally but physically, I spoke to him about my needs for these dampers. Just as lockdown came in though, unfortunately our plans changed. So I was going to go up to the factory. It's only about 20 minutes away, it's a great drive as well. Have a little tour around the factory and then get these. But we couldn't do that. So he overnighted them, gave me a great price. He sent me a mug, he knows I love tea, and a holdall as well. So thanks, big up to Richard there. If you need any help, quote me and he will help you out. Just send him a message. He was massively helpful with the rear dampers as well. So we just got nothing fancy really, but they're adjustable Spax dampers for the front end. I wanted adjustable because we're not 100% sure what weight changes on the front. We know there's a little bit more, so we want some good control on that with the old nose dive in. So that's why I've got the adjustables. Let's fit them, basically. There's nothing more to say about that. The rear bolts are brand new. Just cleaned up the top bolt, get some copper grease on those threads, and let's bolt her in. There's our lovely Spax dampers, adjustable, just one-way adjustment, that's good, that should help with things. I'm trying to make steps towards drivability, MOT really, and simplifying things for paint. So I think once the crane is back, my thoughts will be to get the bulkhead actually painted, get all this behind here painted, get the scuttle panel finished, get all behind there painted, get all this painted, fitted. That can stay there for engine in and out, and it could stay there for paint if we have already painted all that. It's just going to be black. It's easy enough. Have the subframe all painted, everything sort of done, and then we could pop the engine in. We could get it for an MOT, get that all drivable, and if necessary, drive it for paint. Ideally, be good if the engine was here so I can be doing stuff to that while it's off at paint, but you know, beggars and choosers and all the rest of it. Yeah, beggars and choosers and all that, but it'll be okay. I think it'll be okay. So a few things on the list. Really must get the belt on this. I thought I'd measured it. I thought I'd ordered it. I think it's somewhere. I've got boxes of bits everywhere. I've adjusted the camber on this side now, so we can see a wheel is sitting almost upright now, which is ideal, which is what we want. I'm now going to start working on wiring. We need to get this, make a decision on this wiring here, what we're going to do with it. And then when I've made that decision with what I'm doing with that, I then know how much room I've got here to play with bottles, coolant, etc. And then I can do the mini wiring. It's a bit of a catch-22 really. Same thing with switches. I want to move the clutch position. It's a very short, very heavy clutch. That's no good. But going a few steps back to go a few steps forward, what I'm going to do is remove the forward wiring now. We've disconnected the battery. Fit the heater box, get the mini wiring in place, and at least get the wiring loom for the lights finished. Then we can test all the lights, and we know that the light loom, the wiring just has to go in there. We know the heater box just has to go in there, and then we can trim the forward stuff to suit. The fuse boxes can be a quarter of the size, the loom can be a quarter of the size, but things like the BSM, start-stop little solenoid thing, the ECU obviously, you can't change much of that. It's just got to go where it's got to go. But other things we can move around. So let's do that. Let's get all that out of the way. Let's get the heater box in and get the mini wiring out. So it'll be good.